In the early 16th century, vast regions of Africa were home to Black African communities rooted in agriculture, craftsmanship, and strong family bonds. Villages stretched across fertile land where men worked the soil, repaired carts and tools, and traded goods, while women managed households, markets, and local farming. Children grew up learning traditions, helping their parents, and playing freely among fields and trees. Life was demanding, but it followed rhythms shaped by nature and community rather than external rule. This balance began to fracture as foreign white European powers arrived along the coasts and gradually pushed inland. Under the pretext of trade and order, English colonial agents imposed authority over local populations. What began as supervision soon transformed into domination. Black African labor was no longer voluntary or communal, it became controlled. Fields, workshops, and transport routes were reorganized to serve colonial interests, while local leaders were stripped of authority. News records of the time described growing tension. Black African men were forced into long hours of labor, repairing wagons, maintaining roads, carrying heavy loads, and working plantations, often under armed supervision. Families noticed the change immediately. Food shortages increased, traditional practices were disrupted, and fear replaced stability. Children, once protected by community life, began witnessing exhaustion and punishment as part of daily reality. As colonial control tightened, labor demands intensified. Black African men worked from sunrise to nightfall, repairing equipment, transporting goods, and cultivating land that no longer belonged to them. Women and older children were drawn into supporting roles, fetching water, carrying materials, and assisting in workshops. The presence of white English overseers became constant, their authority reinforced by threat and punishment rather than cooperation. Children were especially affected. News accounts from missionaries and traders mentioned young boys assisting in mechanical tasks beyond their strength, and young girls burdened with domestic labor meant for adults. Playtime faded. Fields that once echoed with laughter became silent workspaces. Parents struggled to protect their children emotionally, teaching them quietly at night, telling stories of ancestors to preserve identity in a world trying to erase it. Despite oppression, Black African communities displayed resilience. Families shared food secretly, elders passed down forbidden histories, and neighbors supported one another in subtle ways. Even under constant surveillance, cultural practices survived in whispers, songs, and nighttime gatherings. These acts of unity became a form of resistance, small but powerful. By the later years of the 16th century, the effects of colonial oppression were deeply embedded in daily life. Entire generations of Black Africans had grown up under forced labor and restricted movement. Yet, despite the physical toll, the spirit of the people endured. News observers of the era noted something remarkable. Even under extreme control, families continued to value education, tradition, and collective care. Children who had known only hardship learned resilience early. They absorbed lessons of survival from their parents and elders, understanding that endurance itself was a form of resistance. Communities adapted, finding ways to preserve dignity amid exploitation. The land still remembered them, and so did their stories. As the century drew to a close, Black African societies stood altered but not erased. Though controlled by foreign powers, they carried forward their history, culture, and hope. These stories, often absent from official colonial records, remain vital reminders of strength, humanity, and survival in one of history's most challenging eras.